Hi, this is Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and I'm in studio today with Reid Scott. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
We are here to talk about many of your projects.
Oh, okay.
You just had a kind of a big movie come out. It was called Venom.
It's called Venom.
How is it?
Which is French for Venom. Yeah, French film, small French film.
Right, a small French film, black and white, period. But yes, I have so many things to ask you about Venom, but the first thing I wanted to ask you is that your character, you play Dr. Dan Lewis, but on Veep, your name is Dan Egan.
Yes.
Are you afraid of being typecast as a Dan?
It's already happened, and I'm embracing it. So I now have it in my contract that whatever character they ask me to play, they have to change the name to Dan. Yeah.
Okay.
Just because I can't keep track, so I just one name. One name. It's very easy.
So with Venom, you get to play Dr. Dan. He's a really nice character.
Yeah, it was a big shift.
It is a big
for me,
shift. Yeah. How did that feel?
It felt great. Yeah, I mean, Dan on Veep is, I'll admit it, it's a lot of fun because he's just so horrible. And the vitriol that he gets to spit on a daily basis is really good fun. Really good fun. But yeah, it's nice to play, a good guy for a change. That was fun too.
Yeah, I have to say I was worried. I was worried for your character.
Oh, were you?
Well, I feel like you're kind of in between Venom and his lady love, so that's a little scary.
We talked about that early on. It's sort of like, because we try to do something different with the love triangle, but it's like it's a love square because Tom is Venom and he's Eddie Brock, so it was a little funny, but it was fun to work with those guys, and again, just try to bring something different to the the hammered to death love triangle of the two meatheads duking it out over the damsel in distress.
Right, and then one of them ends up being a slime ball.
Yeah, it's like you don't want. We've seen that a million times, and also just it takes all the power away from the female character, like makes her like this prize to be won, and we didn't want to do that. So it was really fun to kind of mix it up a little bit.
And Eddie, he's supposed to be like a loser reporter, which I don't take offense to at all. But it's still Tom Hardy. You had to be kind of like this generous, nice guy to the ex-boyfriend who is Tom Hardy.
Right. Yeah. He's a big dude. He's a big, tough dude. And my character's. That was one of the things that we tried to establish early on. So the director Ruben Fleischer, who I was a huge fan of before from Zombieland and Gangster Squad and all of his movies, but he's known for injecting some comedy into whatever he's doing. So we talked about that. How Dr. Dan was, he's a pretty by-the-book, straight arrow kind of guy, but like where can we find these opportunities for some comedy? And one of the things that he and I really liked was the idea of if Dr. Dan legitimately thought that Eddie Brock was just awesome, just like sort of had a kind of a guy crush on Eddie Brock, so in no way feels threatened by him, it's just sort of like, this is so cool that my current girlfriend used to bang Eddie Brock. It's like, wow, this is great. It's like a badge of honor for him. So, and that kind of puts Eddie's character kind of on the back foot a little bit, because what do you do when you want to hate someone and they're just nice to you all the time? You don't really know how to deal with that. So it made for some fun kind of conflict.
How does it feel to be part of the Marvel Universe, but as a human, a mortal human?
I don't know yet. I don't know if it's quite fully set in. I know the premiere, I got a good dose of it. There was a lot of hype and a lot of anticipation, and I could sort of feel it coming. And at the premiere, just like stepping out of the car, and you just see the literal tens of thousands of people that were lining the streets for the premiere. I was like, oh my God, I think this is bigger than I thought. And but it's really fun. Everyone we got to work with, Avi Arad, who's Mr. Marvel himself, is just the nicest guy. And was so warm and welcoming, and it was, I grew up a comic book nerd, so it was really cool to kind of get taken into the fold a little bit. It was a thrill.
Yeah. And Venom has been duking it out in the box office with A Star Is Born.
Yep.
Do you think there's any crossover potential there?
God, I hope so. If you see Venom, you can see there's we left a little cliffhanger where maybe Bradley Cooper's character from A Star Is Born sort of could tumble in at some point. Yeah.
Did you have any questions that you wanted answered after this movie?
Where's lunch? Are we going to make another one? will Dr. Dan survive that one? Yeah, a lot. I mean, I was a Venom fan as a kid. Venom was a comic that I read. I wouldn't say that I was like, hardcore into him, but I was definitely well aware. I probably had, half a dozen comics, and friends of mine were super into it. So I tried to do a bit of a deep dive beforehand, and man, there's so much in the canon. I was probably left with more questions than answers by the end of it. But I love seeing the character sort of stand on its own. I think there's a ton of characters from the Marvel Universe that I think are just ripe for that. I know everyone's going to be screaming for when is Spidey going to show up? And I mean, I have no idea if that's going to happen or not. That's way above my pay grade. But it was definitely cool to be, part of the launch of that new angle that they're going for with these sort of standalone characters. And I think it works. And I think there's a lot of room, to grow. I think one of the goals of Venom is to sort of, really, really dig down on him. And I hope each movie is sort of, different from the next, because there's so much, wonderful darkness that you can mine from Venom. So we'll see where he goes.
I want to know so much more about the alien himself.
Yeah, I know. In the beginning of the movie, you see the spacecraft, spoiler, not really, it's the beginning of the movie, coming in, but that exploration, what happened on that comet.
And as somebody of a certain age, I remember the Maximum Carnage storyline.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward
That's going to be awesome.
What's happening with that.
Yeah.
So let's turn our attention to Veep.
Okay.
You're currently filming.
We are. We're in the middle of season 7 right now. Yeah.
Yes. And, is it triumphant or is it a bittersweet?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
It's triumphant in the sense because, we got Julia back. It was, she took her cancer very seriously. And as did we. We were, scared for her, but the way she attacked it, the way she does everything, just, head on. We went dark for a year, which it blew my mind that was enough time for her to go away and get her treatment and get healthy. But she pulled it off, and she's back, and she's just as strong as she ever was. So I think we're just thrilled to have her back because, not only can the show, go on for this last season, but, we love her. She's just, she's a freaking hoot to be around. She's really cool. And it's great. So we're having a lot of fun. And also being gone from it for a year, there's sort of, it was great to sort of, to slip on these characters again and just sort of wind up this crazy machine that is this show and get to go back to work with all of our friends and everything. But I don't know if the bittersweetness is kicked in yet. I'm sure it will. We're already talking about it. When is it gonna hit? When are the the tears and the hugs really gonna start pouring out? But we've got a few months left to go. So, oh man, I don't know. I can't tell if I'll just ice over and just be like it's fine, or if I'll just be a giant puddle. I have no idea.
And this is going to be a short season. It's 7 episodes.
7 episodes.
So do you feel like the action is moving along faster than usual in this season?
It is. There's a lot going on. I mean, I think from one season to the next, one of the progressions you can see in Veep is that it gets more and more complicated. There's just more and more plates spinning. There's more and more characters. It's just swirling commotion. And this season, I think, tops all that. There's a lot going on. I don't want to give anything away, but it's so satisfying because we pull things from season 1 and season 2 that were sort of, open-ended. We come back to some of these things in season 7. So it's been great to kind of reach back and rediscover things that we'd forgotten. And that's one of the great things about Veep is that it's just the writers do a great job of keeping it inclusive and keeping it fun, and all these little tiny details that we played with early on. Or it's fun to sort of we say that there's a whole other show that could have been cut together called Veep Beta. Just all the stuff that got cut because there's a lot that got cut.
Yeah.
And it's fun to sign it. Give some of these old jokes and these old bits and old storylines a chance.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just watching the season finale from season 6, and the references are from before Trump, and it's insane. Are we going to see a little bit of that in the new season?
I think a little bit. Veep is. I've always thought they've done a great job of never putting too fine a point on it. From the beginning, it's been something that's been really remarkable, and because we've gotten to meet so many people, real political movers and shakers, HBO's been great about setting us up with, interviewing sessions, and we've gotten to do a lot of research. And we've probably had access to information that we shouldn't have at times, because you get staffers drunk and they just talk. It's great. But both sides of the aisle, even after 7 years now, both sides of the aisle seem to think that we're sort of taking the piss out of the other side, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't say which, but I think it's tilted one way more than the other. But they've never really tipped the hand as to sort of like what's the agenda. And I think that's really smart. And it's not just about like alienating an audience, but it's about there's so much stuff to make fun of from both sides. Yeah. Although, now it's like both sides are just making fun of themselves so much, there's not really much left for them to do. Yeah, we're running out of ideas. They just keep beating with the writers. Like, poor writers are coming up with the craziest stuff, and then the next day the news, it happens. It's really weird.
It is amazing. I mean, so much of it is so prescient. You saw kind of how nasty politics were going to get in the show, and then you saw it happen in real life.
We were through the looking glass, people.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about your other project, Late Night.
Yeah.
So that's with Mindy Kaling and Emma Thompson?
Yeah, oh, that was so much. Mindy wrote the movie. She wrote an incredible script. And it's all about a late night talk show, sort of like, like a Colbert or a Letterman. And Emma Thompson plays the talk show host. I play one of her young head writers. And Mindy plays the very fish out of water. She's the girl breaking into the boys' club, essentially, and it's brilliant. I think it's so topical with so many issues that are swirling today. But on top of that, it's also got a lot of heart, and it's just funny. The cast is incredible. Man, I had a blast playing with everybody. It was really fun.
Yeah, Emma Thompson was making the rounds on all the late night talk shows and talking about researching to be a late night talk show host.
Oh, she nailed it.
And yeah, I mean, her personality is so spectacular and fun. Like, what was it like to work with her on set?
I've been such a huge fan of hers for such a long time. I was definitely a little intimidated at first, but she's just so warm and open, and she's so playful. I mean, she's like, I don't think she might be saying this, like, she's a goofball. Like, she's totally goofy. She's really funny. I don't think she gets credit for how funny she is. She started off in sketch comedy. So she and Hugh Laurie, who I know from Veep, they started off on a show. There's a British show called Al Fresco, which was a sketch comedy back in the 70s, early 80s, something like that. But she's like legit comic nerd. I mean, she's great. So you could tell that she was just so in her element, just, being the comedic maestro of these long sort of our characters are all writers for the most part. So in these like writing sessions, she's trying to revamp her show, and she was an incredible conductor. She's so fun, so funny, and just very generous actress for everything that she's accomplished. She really still wants to dig in and make sure that everybody gets their moment. It's like it's exactly what you want from when you get to work with one of your idols.
Excellent. So my last question to you, going back to Veep, the last we saw of Dan Egan, he was discovering that he was going to be a father. He wasn't very happy about that.
That's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea for Dan. Dan should be allowed nowhere near children.
Is he going to get past that? Is this going to be a problem?
Oh, there's so much to say about that. I don't want to tip it. It gets resolved in a very Dan Egan Veepish manner.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we really look forward to seeing it.
Thank you.
And
Thanks.
Congratulations on all your projects.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks.